Today is the 24th of August, 2010, and we come to the 87th chapter of the Majjhima Nikaya, Piyajatika Sutta, born from those who are dear. Tonight is also the 36th talk in the series of the Majjhima Nikaya Suttas. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. On that occasion, a certain householder's dear and beloved only son had died. After his son's death, he had no more desire to work or to eat. He kept going to the charnel ground and crying, "My only child, where are you? My only child, where are you?" Then that householder went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, sat down at one side. The Blessed One said to him, "Householder, your faculties are not those of one in control of his own mind. Your faculties are deranged." And he said, "How could my faculties not be deranged, Venerable Sir? For my dear and beloved only son has died. Since he died, I have no more desire to work or to eat. I keep going to the charnel ground and crying, 'My only child, where are you? My only child, where are you?'" And the Buddha said, "So it is, householder, so it is. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." And he said, "Venerable Sir, who would ever think that sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear? Venerable Sir, happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." Then, displeased with the Blessed One's words, disapproving of them, the householder rose from his seat and left. Now on that occasion, some gamblers were playing with dice not far from the Blessed One. Then the householder went to those gamblers and said, "Just now, sirs, I went to the recluse Gotama, and after paying homage to him, I sat down at one side. When I had done so, the recluse Gotama said to me, 'Householder, your faculties are not those of one in control of his own mind. Your faculties are deranged.'" And he repeated the entire conversation with the Buddha. And he said, "Venerable Sir, happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." Then, displeased with the recluse Gotama's words, disapproving of them, I rose from my seat and left. And the gambler said, "So it is, householder, so it is. Happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." Then the householder left thinking, "I agree with the gamblers." Eventually, this story reached the king's palace. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala told Queen Malika, "This is what has been said by the recluse Gotama, Malika. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." And Malika said, "If that has been said by the Blessed One, sire, then it is so." And the king said, "No matter what the recluse Gotama says, Malika applauds it thus. If that has been said by the Blessed One, sire, then it is so. Just as a pupil applauds whatever his teacher says to him, saying, 'So it is, teacher, so it is.' So too, Malika, no matter what the recluse Gotama says, you applaud it thus. If that has been said by the Blessed One, sire, then it is so. Be off, Malika, away with you." Let's stop here for a moment. So, worldly people, we always think that those that we love give us the most joy. It's true, but when something happens to them, then it also gives us the most sorrow. That the second part they don't realize. So, when this sutta was spoken, at that time this King Pasenadi of Kosala, he must have just come to know the Buddha. So he did not have the unshakable faith in the Buddha yet. So he was not happy with the wife. Then Queen Malika addressed the Brahmin, Nali Janga, "Come, Brahmin, go to the Blessed One and pay homage in my name with your head at his feet and ask whether he is free from illness and affliction and is healthy, strong, and abiding in comfort, saying, Venerable Sir, Queen Malika pays homage with her head at the Blessed One's feet and asks whether the Blessed One is free from illness, etc. Then say this, Venerable Sir, have these words been uttered by the Blessed One? Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Learn well what the Blessed One replies and report it to me, for Tathagatas do not speak untruth. Yes, madam, he replied, and he went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and said, Master Gotama, Queen Malika pays homage with her head at Master Gotama's feet and asks whether he is free from illness, etc., and abiding in comfort. And she says this, Venerable Sir, have these words been spoken by the Blessed One? Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. And the Buddha said, so it is, Brahmin, so it is. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. It can be understood from this, Brahmin, how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in this same Savatthi, there was a certain woman whose mother died. Owing to her mother's death, she went mad, lost her mind, and wandered from street to street, from crossroad to crossroad, saying, have you seen my mother? Have you seen my mother? And it can also be understood from this, how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in this same Savatthi, there was a certain woman whose father died, and she also went mad, whose brother died, whose sister died, whose son died, whose daughter died, whose husband died. Owing to their death, she went mad, lost her mind, and wandered from street to street, from crossroad to crossroad, saying, have you seen my husband, etc.? Have you seen my husband? And it can be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in this same Savatthi, there was a certain man whose mother died, whose father died, whose brother died, whose sister died, whose son died, whose daughter died, whose wife died. Owing to their death, those people went mad, lost their mind, and wandered from street to street and from crossroad to crossroad, saying, have you seen my mother, my father, or my wife, etc.? And it can be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in this same Savatthi, there was a certain woman who went to live with her relative's family. Her relatives wanted to divorce her from her husband and give her to another whom she did not want. Then the woman said to her husband, Lord, these relatives of mine want to divorce me from you and give me to another whom I do not want. Then the man cut the woman in two and committed suicide, thinking, we shall be together in the afterlife. It can also be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Then, delighting and rejoicing in the Blessed One's words, the Brahmin Nalijanga rose from his seat, went to Queen Malika, and reported to her his entire conversation with the Blessed One. Then Queen Malika went to King Pasnadi of Kosala and asked him, what do you think, sire? Is Princess Vajiri dear to you? Yes, Malika, Princess Vajiri is dear to me. What do you think, sire? If change and alteration took place in Princess Vajiri, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise in you? Change and alteration in Princess Vajiri would mean an alteration in my life. How could sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair not arise in me? And Queen Malika said, it was with reference to this, sire, that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. What do you think, sire? Is the noble Queen Vasabha dear to you? And he replied similarly, is General Vidudaba dear to you? Am I dear to you? Are Kasi and Kosala dear to you? Yes, Malika, Kasi and Kosala are dear to me. We owe it to Kasi and Kosala that we use Kasi sandalwood and wear garlands, scents and unguents. What do you think, Sire? If change and alteration took place in Kasi and Kosala, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair arise in you? Change and alteration in Kasi and Kosala would mean an alteration in my life. How could sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair not arise in me? It was with reference to this, Sire, that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. And the king said, it is wonderful, Malika, it is marvelous how far the Blessed One penetrates with wisdom and sees with wisdom. Come, Malika, give me the ablution water. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala rose from his seat and arranging his upper robe on one shoulder, he extended his hands in reverential salutation towards the Blessed One and uttered this exclamation 3 times. Honor to the Blessed One, Arahant Sammasambuddha. In Pali it will be Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I uttered this 3 times. This ablution water is for washing the hands and feet and mouth before paying homage to the Buddha. So initially King Pasenadi rebuked the Queen Malika for saying everything that the Buddha says is correct. But after she gave the examples of the daughter Vajiri, if anything happened to her, then the king would feel this sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. And similarly to other persons who were dear to him, he would also feel it. Then he understood how sorrow and lamentation arise when anything happens to someone whom we love dearly. So clinging, attachment brings about sorrow. Anything that we cling to, we want badly, we want it to remain as it is. But in life, everything is impermanent. You never know what is going to happen. So either you're going to leave those that you love, or those that you love are going to die before you. So when that happens, if you cling to them too much, you will have pain, great pain. In life, if we look around with our eyes, as we grow older, we can see the greatest sorrow arises when somebody that you love dearly passes away. As a monk, I've gone to funerals a few times, and I've seen when they take out the coffin of those that they love, they're going to bring it to the cemetery. At that time, when they take out the coffin from the house, you see how the family members cry. There's no sorrow like that type of sorrow, because those that you love for so many years, suddenly they're going to leave you and leave you forever. And it's not like going for a holiday. They're going to disappear altogether from your life. And when that happens, you not only see this, they're leaving you, you also realize that your turn will come. One day your turn will come. That life is impermanent. That you also have to die. So, since all of us know that death is coming, so if we are wise enough, we prepare for it. To prepare for this, it takes years. You cannot just say you will just let go. It's easy to say let go. When the time comes, it's very difficult to let go. One doctor was telling me, he works in the hospice, an old lady with terminal cancer. She kept saying she's waiting to go, that she's suffering, waiting for her time to go. But actually, when the day came for her to go, and the daughter was around her, she clung to the daughter, and cried, saying she didn't want to go. There's one thing to say, you, when the time comes, you will let go. But unless you have trained your mind and meditated, and your mind is strong enough and understood the Dhamma, then when the actual time comes, you certainly cannot let go. The next sutta is number 88, Bahitika Sutta, the cloak. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then, when it was morning, the Venerable Ananda dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Savatthi and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he went to the eastern park, to the palace of Migara's mother for the day's abiding. Now on that occasion, King Pasanadi of Kosala had mounted the elephant Eka Pundarika and was riding out of Savatthi at midday. He saw the Venerable Ananda coming in the distance and asked the minister Sirivada, "That is the Venerable Ananda, is it not?" "Yes, sire, that is the Venerable Ananda." Then King Pasanadi of Kosala told the man, "Come, good man, go to the Venerable Ananda and pay homage in my name with your feet at his feet, saying, 'Venerable Sir, King Pasanadi of Kosala pays homage with his head at the Venerable Ananda's feet.' Then say this, 'Venerable Sir, if the Venerable Ananda has no urgent business, perhaps the Venerable Ananda would wait a moment out of compassion.' 'Yes, sire,' the man replied, and he went to the Venerable Ananda, and after paying homage to him, he stood at one side and said to the Venerable Ananda, 'Venerable Sir, King Pasanadi of Kosala pays homage with his head at the Venerable Ananda's feet, and he says this, Venerable Sir, if the Venerable Ananda has no urgent business, perhaps the Venerable Ananda would wait a moment out of compassion.' The Venerable Ananda consented in silence. Then King Pasanadi went by elephant as far as the elephant could go, and then he dismounted and went to the Venerable Ananda on foot. After paying homage to him, he stood at one side and said to the Venerable Ananda, 'If, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Ananda has no urgent business, it would be good if he would go to the bank of the river Achiravati out of compassion.' The Venerable Ananda consented in silence. He went to the bank of the river Achiravati and sat down at the root of a tree on a seat made ready. Then King Pasanadi went by elephant as far as the elephant could go, and then he dismounted and went to the Venerable Ananda on foot. After paying homage to him, he stood at one side and said to the Venerable Ananda, 'Here, Venerable Sir, is an elephant rug. Let the Venerable Ananda be seated on it.' 'There is no need, great king. Sit down. I am sitting on my own mat.' Stop here for a moment. So you see, monks, the Buddha's disciples, they are contented. They have a sitting mat already. They think there's no need for a luxurious mat from the king. King Pasanadi of Kosala sat down on a seat made ready and said, 'Venerable Ananda, would the Blessed One behave with the body in such a way that he could be censured by wise recluses and Brahmins?' 'No, great king, the Blessed One would not behave with the body in such a way that he could be censured by wise recluses and Brahmins.' 'Would the Blessed One, Venerable Ananda, behave with speech and behave with mind in such a way that he could be censured by wise recluses and Brahmins?' 'No, great king, the Blessed One would not behave with speech or behave with the mind in such a way that he could be censured by wise recluses and Brahmins.' And the king said, 'It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous, for what we were unable to accomplish with a question has been accomplished by the Venerable Ananda with the answer to the question. We do not recognize anything of value in the praise and blame of others spoken by foolish, ignorant persons who speak without having investigated and evaluated. But we recognize as valuable the praise and blame of others spoken by wise, intelligent and sagacious persons who speak after having investigated and evaluated.' stop here for a moment. You can see from here that at the time of this sutta, King Pasenadi had known the Buddha not very long. So he did not yet have the strong faith in the Buddha. So he was asking the Buddha's disciple Ananda whether the Buddha could do anything wrong to body, speech and mind, and Weber Ananda said no. According to the commentary, this sutta, at the time of this sutta, these external sect ascetics, they were jealous of the Buddha and the Buddha's disciples, so they wanted to harm the Buddha's reputation. So they convinced a female wanderer, Sundari, to every night go to the Jetavana monastery, and then at dawn, the next morning, to leave the monastery and let people see that she was leaving the monastery, so that people would suspect that she is having some affair with the Buddha or something. And after people had seen this several times, then these external ascetics, they murdered her and buried her near the Jetavana monastery. So when her body was discovered, the Buddha and the monks were under suspicion that they had an affair with her and killed her, maybe because she was pregnant or what. So that's why the king asked this question, whether the Buddha would do anything wrong. And then the king said, "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is censured by wise recluses and Brahmins?" "Any bodily behavior that is unwholesome, great king." "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is unwholesome?" Any bodily behavior that is blameworthy, great king." "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is blameworthy?" "Any bodily behavior that brings affliction, great king." "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior brings affliction?" "Any bodily behavior that has painful results, great king." "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior has painful results?" "Any bodily behavior, great king, that leads to one's own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, and on account of which unwholesome states increase and wholesome states diminish. Such bodily behavior is censured by wise recluses and Brahmins, great king." "Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of verbal behavior is censured by wise recluses and Brahmins?" "Any verbal behavior that is unwholesome." Similarly, he asked what type of verbal behavior is unwholesome. And Venerable Ananda said that which is blameworthy, and that blameworthy behavior is that which brings affliction, and affliction to the self or to others or to both. And similarly for mental behavior that is unwholesome. So these three karmas, bodily behavior, verbal behavior, and mental behavior that is unwholesome, are those types of behavior that leads to the affliction of others or to affliction of oneself, or both. Now, Venerable Ananda, does the Blessed One praise only the abandoning of all unwholesome states? The Tathagata, great king, has abandoned all unwholesome states, and he possesses wholesome states. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is uncensured by wise recluses and Brahmins? Any bodily behavior that is wholesome, great king. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is wholesome? Any bodily behavior that is blameless, great king. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior is blameless? Any bodily behavior that does not bring affliction, great king. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior does not bring affliction? Any bodily behavior that has pleasant results, great king. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind of bodily behavior has pleasant results? Any bodily behavior, great king, that does not lead to one's affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, and on account of which unwholesome states diminish and wholesome states increase. Such bodily behavior, great king, is uncensured by wise recluses and Brahmins. Similarly, for wholesome verbal behavior and wholesome mental behavior. So, wholesome body behavior, wholesome verbal behavior and wholesome mental behavior does not lead to the affliction of oneself or others or both. And unwholesome states diminish and wholesome states increase. Unwholesome states are those states of mind that give you suffering, like restlessness, anger, greed, delusion, jealousy and all that. And wholesome states are states of mind that give you happiness, like non-greed, non-anger, equanimity, etc. Now, Venerable Ananda, what kind, Now, Venerable Ananda, does the Blessed One praise only the undertaking of all wholesome states? The Tathagata, great king, has abandoned all unwholesome states and possesses wholesome states. And the king said, "It is wonderful, Venerable Sir, it is marvelous how well that has been expressed by the Venerable Ananda, and we are satisfied and pleased by what has been so well expressed by him. Venerable Sir, we are so satisfied and pleased with what has been so well expressed by the Venerable Ananda, that if the elephant treasure were allowed to him, we would give it to him. If the horse treasure were allowed to him, we would give it to him. If the boon of a village were allowed to him, we would give it to him. But we know, Venerable Sir, that these are not allowable for the Venerable Ananda. But there is this cloak of mine, Venerable Sir, which was sent to me, packed in a royal umbrella case by King Ajatasattu of Magadha, 16 hands long and 8 hands wide. Let the Venerable Ananda accept it out of compassion." And Venerable Ananda said, "It is not necessary, great king. My triple robe is complete." Venerable Sir, this river Achiravati has been seen both by the Venerable Ananda and by ourselves when a great cloud has rained heavily on the mountains. Then this river Achiravati overflows both its banks. So too, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Ananda can make a triple robe for himself out of this cloak, and he can share out his own triple robe among his companions in the holy life. In this way, our offering will overflow. Venerable Sir, let the Venerable Ananda accept the cloak. The Venerable Ananda accepted the cloak. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala said, "And now, Venerable Sir, we depart. We are busy and have much to do. Now is the time, great king, to do as you think fit." Then King Pasenadi of Kosala, having delighted and rejoiced in the Venerable Ananda's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Venerable Ananda, keeping him on his right, he departed. And soon after he had left, the Venerable Ananda went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side, related to him his entire conversation with King Pasenadi of Kosala, and presented the cloak to the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks. "It is a gain, monks, for King Pasenadi of Kosala. It is a great gain for King Pasenadi of Kosala that he has had the opportunity of seeing and paying respect to Ananda." That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. It's the end of the sutta. So, here the King Pasenadi, being new to the Dhamma, he did not understand so well what is meant by wholesome karma and unwholesome karma. So Venerable Ananda explained to him so clearly that he was so pleased. He said, if Venerable Ananda could accept an elephant, he would offer him an elephant or a horse or even a village. But he knows these are not allowable. So he offered a piece of cloth to the Venerable Ananda, very good quality cloth sent to him by King Ajatasattu. But Venerable Ananda, during the Buddha's time, the monks were only allowed one set of robes. One set of robes is called the triple robe. This is the upper robe, then the lower robe, the sabong, and then the double layer one, the sangati. Only three, one set is allowed. So he didn't want to accept the cloth. But this king pleaded with him a second time, so out of compassion, he accepted, and then went to the Buddha and offered it to the Buddha. And then you see the Buddha praised this Venerable Ananda. He said it's a great gain for King Pasenadi to have had the opportunity of seeing and paying respect to Ananda. Ananda is one of the monks, even though at the time of the Buddha, he was only a Sotapanna, he had not attained Arahanthood. Yet the Buddha says it's difficult to find somebody with wisdom like Ananda. The Buddha had great regard for this Venerable Ananda. So